Sword fights and gun duels have been a staple of cinema since the dawn of, well, cinema. Of course, more often than not, movie action is choreographed to be thrilling rather than realistic. After all, viewers want to be entertained, but even though we know what we're watching is fiction, sometimes we come to accept some information we get from movies as fact. As a result, our collective perception of weaponry has been warped by incorrect portrayals in pop culture, and everything we thought we knew is a lie. Maybe it's on us for believing everything we see, or maybe it's on the filmmakers for coming up with their own rules, but either way, it is genuinely heartbreaking to learn the truth about the inaccurate portrayal of weapons that have appeared in some of the most iconic scenes in movie history. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 times movies got weapons wrong. Number 10. Laser beams, Goldfinger. When the titular villain in Goldfinger learns that James Bond is a secret agent, he straps him to a harness and prepares to shred him in half with a high-powered laser. As the laser begins slicing through the harness with little effort, Bond realizes he will be cleaved in two if he doesn't escape. However, lasers had only existed for 4 years at the time of Goldfinger's release, so the technology behind it was still in its infancy. Laser weapons as we know them didn't exist until the 1980s. However, even modern lasers are not the unstoppable weapons that science fiction always promised. A laser is so sensitive that even the mildest thing can interfere with its ability to hit its target, including rain, smoke, or even dust. The power needed for a laser to penetrate through a solid object does not exist at the moment, and may never be possible in the same way as it is portrayed in pop culture. Number 9. The FLAIL. Kingdom of Heaven. If you have watched a medieval film, pretty much any medieval film, it's pretty much guaranteed that you have seen a character wielding a flail. In fact, it's genuinely challenging to think of a movie based in that era that doesn't have a scene of a warrior smashing enemies to bits by spinning his ball and chain weapon. Although it has appeared in movies like Braveheart and Gladiator, the Ridley Scott epic Kingdom of Heaven stands out because of the scene where Orlando Bloom's character battles a knight wielding a three-headed flail. Here's the problem though, how could anyone control such a weapon? There's no possible way to know exactly where the three balls are going to move, so it feels like the knight would injure himself more than his opponent. Now at this point you might assume that I'm going to say that this isn't how flails were used, but it's actually much stranger than that. That's because many historians believe the flail never actually existed. Despite the fact that you can find flails in history museums, many of them have proven to be forgeries while others were designed for decoration, not war. Even if the flail was a genuine medieval weapon, it was used far less often than we originally believed. Number 8. The nail gun, the equalizer. On paper, a nail gun seems like one of the simplest and most efficient weapons possible. Even the most rudimentary nail gun can fire at least 40 nails per minute and hold at least 400 at a time. Although these appliances have been depicted as deadly weapons in Final Destination 3, Casino Royale, and Lethal Weapon 2, probably the most iconic depiction is in The Equalizer, when Denzel Washington's character Robert McCall kills the main villain with a tap nailer. But I hear you all asking, if nail guns are so effective, then how come nobody uses them as weapons in real life? Well, despite what we've seen in movies, nail guns can't actually fire nails like bullets. Whether the tool is pneumatic, power-actuated, or combustion-powered, there is a built-in safety mechanism so it can only fire nails while being pressed against a hard, flat surface. Because nail guns are a universal tool for builders, it would be irresponsible and unsafe for them to be designed any other way. Number 7. Dropped guns go off, True Lies. Near the end of the 1990s thriller True Lies, Jamie Lee Curtis's character fires an Uzi to help out her husband, who is being attacked by terrorists. However, she is so unprepared for the machine gun's kickback that she drops it down the stairs immediately after pulling the trigger. Luckily, the SMG manages to fire a few shots every single time it hits a step, shooting every henchman in the room dead. It's cool as hell, but also scientifically impossible. Since 1968, gun regulations require thorough drop safety tests to prevent this exact thing from ever happening. A semi-automatic has a firing pin lock, meaning it cannot shoot while the firearm is at rest. Even if the weapon is struck with great force, this safety mechanism will prevent it from firing. The only way to deactivate this lock is to pull the trigger. There are incredibly rare instances when a dropped gun has fired, but this is mostly due to the weapon being poorly constructed. Even then, there is no possible way a gun could go off repeatedly after being dropped, as is portrayed in this film. Number 6. Sword fighting hordes of enemies, Kill Bill. Any filmgoer is familiar with the image of the hero wailing on a horde of goons while only armed with a sword. One of the most famous modern depictions of this sort of battle occurs during the conclusion of Kill Bill, when Uma Thurman's character, the Bride, takes on Oren Ishii's gang, the Crazy 88. As cool as this scene is though, the Bride would never win such a fight, and it's not because she is heavily outnumbered. Although the Bride hacks through people like they were made out of butter, and katanas can cut through bones, most swords will eventually bend after pushing against a human bone. Because of this, the shot where the Bride cleaves a man in two with a single katana swipe could happen, but it's not sustainable. Swords also become blunter upon every single strike. After hacking through 10 people, her katana would be coated in so much blood and human entrails that she might as well just be walloping her enemies with a stick. On top of that, the Bride keeps intentionally striking her enemy's sword with her own, and in real sword fights, the opponents would avoid each other's blade, knowing it could break within a few strikes. Number 5. The Boomerang, Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. One of the most memorable characters in Mad Max 2 is the Feral Kid, partly because the Mad Lad is armed with a boomerang which he can hurl with lethal force and catch with little effort. However, the way the boomerang is portrayed in this scene is grossly inaccurate. First off, not every boomerang is actually designed to return to the wielder. Returnable boomerangs have to be blunted so the hurler doesn't cut themselves while catching it as well, and some of them aren't even designed for throwing and are used more like clubs. Also, the idea of hitting a target with a boomerang is wildly problematic. Because it's an aerodynamic tool, it's impossible to hit anything with precision. They're much more of a tool in general than a weapon anyway. Some animals, especially ducks, tend to mistake a hurled boomerang for a bird of prey, distracting them long enough for a hunter to catch them in a net. They were also used as toys, fire starters, and even percussive musical instruments at a time. Number 4. Landmines. KINGSMEN, The Golden Circle. One of the tensest moments in any drama is when we see our characters walking through a war zone, only to hear a click sound signifying that one of them has stepped on a landmine. The stepper knows that the instant they take their foot off the mine, it'll blow them to smithereens. This moment was perhaps best demonstrated in the climax of KINGSMEN, The Golden Circle. After the secret agent Merlin steps on a landmine, he bursts into song to draw in his enemies. He then willingly takes his foot off the mine, causing the blast to kill them all. It may be the most poignant moment in the film, but landmines have never been designed in this way. Firstly, a mine doesn't explode like a grenade, and the explosion itself is actually rather small, and it's more likely to maim the stepper's foot or leg rather than blow them to kingdom come. Secondly, a mine doesn't give a warning click. This idea has been inserted into pop culture to build suspense, as it wouldn't make any sense for mines to be designed this way, since it would give ample time for everyone else to get out the way of the blast. Number 3. Tranquilizer guns. X-Men 2. In X-Men 2, a military scientist called William Stryker believes a war between humanity and mutants is brewing. As a result, he orders his soldiers to break into the X-Men's home so he can neutralize and weaponize them for his own agenda. When one of the men sees a mutant child, he blasts him in the neck with an anesthetic dart, rendering him unconscious. Moments later, the soldiers try to use the same type of dart against a 6'6" big lad called Colossus. He is the problem with how tranquilizer guns are depicted in the film though. There is no anesthetic dosage that works exactly the same on everyone. The bigger the person, the more anesthetic they're going to need. So if the dart in question was designed to knock out a child, it would have almost no effect on a man of Colossus's size. If it was designed to knock out a Colossus-sized man, a child could overdose or even die if they received the same dosage. If Stryker's squad really wanted to neutralize the X-Men, he should have used knockout gas. Number 2. The air shotgun. No Country for Old Men. The antagonist of No Country for Old Men is one of the most chilling villains in recent years. He has become iconic due to his monotone speech, his mechanical-like efficiency, and his uncompromisable ruthlessness. Another thing that stands out about the mysterious assassin is his primary weapon, a sound-suppressed Remington semi-automatic shotgun. The silencer here makes each shot fired sound like a low hiss rather than a deafening blast. However, suppressors don't work that way. A shotgun blast can be as loud as 165 decibels, and in 1980, which is the time period the story is based in, suppressors did exist, but they could only knock off around 20 decibels. And in case you didn't know, 145 decibels is still really loud. By comparison, a motorcycle engine is 100 decibels, and 140 decibels is loud enough to cause a person to suffer irreversible hearing damage. Reliable shotgun suppressors were only invented in 2014, which was 7 years after the film's release. Number 1. The sword making scene. Conan the Barbarian. Conan the Barbarian begins with the forging of the titular character's blade. The scene shows a blacksmith heating the liquidated steel, bashing it into the shape of a sword on an anvil and then waiting for it to solidify. When the steel has cooled, it's ready to wield. Everyone and their mums knows this is how a sword is made, but everything is wrong with this scene. Although it appears the sword is built in a few hours, it would actually take 2 or 3 days. And guess what? That's just the blade. To construct the handle, the guard, or the pommel adds on even more time. If you thought forging a smaller blade would be easier, you'd be wrong as well, as crafting a single dagger can take up to 50 hours. Also, you can only forge a sword from boiling liquid with copper, not steel. However, this method hasn't been practiced since the Bronze Age. I mean, hey, maybe the joke's on me for taking this too seriously. I mean, who would have thought a movie where James Earl Jones transforms into a snake would be accurate? So that's our list. Want some of you guys think down in the comments below, how many of these weapon myths did you believe, and are there any that I missed off here? Either way, while you're down there, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.